right, now we are ready for step 3. We have now practiced creating a value scale using paint, just with black and white. You have now practiced creating a monochromatic value scale using color. So you selected one color on your flower tints and shades, so you should have completed this. Because in our project, our Tints and Shades Zentangle, you are selecting one color, and we will be applying paint gradually from light to dark all the way to the edges of our paper. So for step 3, we're actually going to begin working on our actual artwork for lesson 2. You're going to need a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. If you have cardstock or poster board, that's great as long as it's not shiny. We need it to be matte. If you don't have either one of those, because we are painting, so you don't want like a real flimsy piece of paper. If you just have regular drawing paper, but it's not 12 by 12, you can cut that down to 10 by 10. That should work as well. You just won't have quite as much room to add all your tints and shades, but we can roll with it. I don't want you losing sleep over trying to get a large piece of paper. So, okay, so you're gonna need your paper, a square. So just make sure it's a square, no smaller than 10 by 10, otherwise your image won't be able to fit inside of it. You're gonna select an image. So I've posted under lesson 2 assignment the 3 different options. You have an acorn, a leaf, or a pumpkin. You're picking just one of those. For my example today, I'm going to be doing the acorn, so print one of them off that you want to use for your project, and you are going to, step 1, cut it out. So you're cutting it out along the edge, that black line, as best you can. Remember, as always, neatness is part of your grade, so I'd rather you be just a little bit inside that black line instead of outside, because we don't want to see any white paper outside the edge. It will just look sloppy. So you want to be right on the black line or a little bit inside the black line. So you're going to cut out your fall object. Like so. And then you're going to trace it. So you're going to need a pencil. You're going to want to trace it in the middle. It can be kind of at an angle, or you can do it straight up. So it's kind of up to you, but you want it approximately in the middle. Really, really lightly. If you press too firmly, you'll be able to see your pencil line through the paint. So just a really light trace of the object. Barely able to see that pencil line. So that it looks like that, like you can barely see mine. Okay, there it is. All right, so this is going to be our guide to help us begin painting from light to dark, starting with our tints and moving out to our shades. This is just an progress one. This is unfinished, but this is just to show you where you're starting. So you're selecting one color. So follow along as I begin with my tints, and then from my tints, you should get about 4 tints, and then you're going to paint your color unmixed. Make sure you're washing your brush before you do that, because you don't want any white paint in there. After you do your color unmixed, then you're filling the remaining area with your shades. You should be able to get at least 3 shades. All right, follow along as I show you, or I demonstrate how to paint the background to your Tints and Shades fall object. Okay, after you have selected which fall image you want, you've printed it out, you've cut it out, and you've traced it lightly on your either 12 by 12 or 10 by 10 sheet of art paper, drawing paper, whatever type of paper you have available. Next, you're going to select your one color. For this demonstration, I have chosen green, but you can choose any color. Again, I would highly recommend not choosing yellow, but purple, blue, red, orange, green, pink, turquoise, any of those colors would work great. You're going to need a small dollop of your color, a small dollop of black, and a small dollop of white. And remember, as we begin painting from light to dark. We're beginning with our lightest tint first. So you're going to take a tiny bit of green and you're going to, or your color, and you're going to mix it into your white. Remember, we always mix into our weak color, and between our color and white, white is the weakest. So you're taking a little bit of your color, mixing it into the white thoroughly, mixing. We don't want any streaks. We don't want more than one value within each tint and shade. It should just be one solid, same value. So once you have your lightest tint, then you are painting along that pencil line, maybe just a smidge inside, because later you'll be adding Zentangle patterns to your fall object, and then we're gonna glue it down inside. And so we want our paint to be just a little bit behind the image, so you don't want to be able to see any of the white paper. So when you're putting down your first tint, maybe just a little bit inside that pencil line, just to cover it just a smidge, and then you're doing about a ½ an inch for this portion. The paintbrush that you're going to probably want is something that's flat. It works best. A flat head paintbrush, and something that's anywhere from a quarter of an inch to ½ an inch will work best. So I went all the way around with my first tint, and now I'm ready to move on to my second tint. So I want it just a little bit darker, so I'm going to take again a little bit of my color, mix it into my previous tint. That way I know for sure that it's darker because I'm adding it to the previous tint color, mixing it thoroughly. And now when I paint, I'm going to just overlap just a little bit with my first tint. Again, we don't want any white paper showing. So we're making sure that our colors touch and maybe overlap just a little bit so that they hide any of the white background paper. I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to go all the way around with this tint and move on to the next tint. We want to have 3 to 4 tints, and after you've mixed your 3 to 4 tints, then you'll wash your brush thoroughly. Remember, you don't need to wash your brush while mixing all of the tints. But once you go on to that color unmixed, you need to make sure you get all the white paint out of your paintbrush. So 3 to 4 tints, wash your paintbrush, then you're going to go around your object with your color unmixed. Okay, I am completing my third tint, and I'm going to mix my last tint, which is my fourth tint. Be sure that you can see a difference in each tint. So if you mix some of your color into your previous tint and you test it out and it looks too close or too similar, you can't quite see a difference, then remix, add a little bit more green or whatever color you've chosen, and just darken it a smidge so you can really see a gradual change. Notice that as I'm painting my tints and shades, I am rotating my paper. It really helps to rotate. Also, it might help to get a placemat. As you are painting right off the edge, our paint is going right up to the edge of our paper. So in order to protect your table, as you can see here, I've made a mess on my table, so I realized I forgot to get a placemat. All right, so then I washed my brush thoroughly, and I painted one round around my object with my color unmixed, and now I'm moving on to my shades. Remember, black is the dominant color when mixing your shades. So we're mixing the dominant color into the weak color, and so your weak color now becomes the color that you've chosen. So you're going to take a little bit of black. Remember, black is really strong and powerful, and if you do too much, then it just turns black. So a little bit of black, mixing it thoroughly into your color, and then you're going to continue to paint those remaining edges around your object. We're taking our color all the way to the edge. We should have no white showing again. Our shades, actually all of our tints and shades are just overlapping just a little bit with the previous tint or shade, so we don't see any white paper. We're also painting in one smooth direction. If you feel like your paint's too thin and you need to do a second coat before mixing your next shade, that's a great idea too, because we just want a nice, clean, crisp paint stroke, nice and solid, moving in one smooth direction. Again, notice that I'm rotating my paper so that I can easily work around the edges of my project. Your goal is to get anywhere from 2 to 3 shades. You kind of start to run out of room. Plus, the shades get dark really quickly and often it just looks like black. So 2 to 3 shades is your goal. And you're just taking that last shade, your second one or your third one, it's up to you, all the way to the edges, to the corners. So that last little shade might be larger than, you can see there, it's larger than the one stroke as all the others, but that's fine. Most importantly, we just don't want any white space left on our paper, except for the center, but that's where we're going to be gluing down the last step, your Zentangled objects later. So that is what you're going for. Nice gradual transition from light to dark. Overlapping your paint strokes, each tint and shade just a smidge, so we have no white space. Nice smooth painting, clean, crisp, solid values.